Hello, everybody. It's me, Junior, your Lich. We're back with the Mite No podcast, episode 15. I think that's how math works. And today I'm with my, as always, lovely co-host Rudy. Say hello, Rudy.
Hello.
There you go. I love when your model does weird shit so much.
Yeah.
It gets so robotic sometimes, and then just like breaks your neck.
I'm a pro at. Wait, actually, no. I should not finish that sentence. I'm not a pro at breaking necks.
I mean, you know.
Imagine, imagine you just see your
As
local girl
long as you
walking
love
down.
what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Imagine you just see a local cat girl walking down the street as me, and it's like, oh hello, wait, and then you say, oh wait, you're the neck breaker.
The neck breaker? That sounds like a World of Warcraft title. In fact, I think it might be.
Oh my god.
Did you ever play World of Warcraft? To get immediately sidetracked from One Piece?
I've been interested in the concept of World of Warcraft, but I've never played it mainly because of the whole subscription thing to actually start playing.
Fair enough, fair enough. Alright, well, good to know. Alright, let's dive right into episode 71 then and get as far away from Blizzard Activision as much as fucking possible.
Oh,
Uh,
Blizzard is awful.
yeah.
Awful company.
I mean, it's Activision. We can't separate them. It is Activision Blizzard. Activision likes to do that. Activision likes to. Here goes this fucking tangent. Activision and all of their handling of the whole Blizzard being sued by the state of California thing, really goes out of their way to always refer to Blizzard as like its own entity, but it isn't. It is Activision Blizzard. They are one company. Um, yeah, Activision likes to throw Blizzard under the bus for that, but it's all Activision all the way up. It's Turtles all the way down. And speaking of Turtles, episode 71, suddenly Giant. So a Giant shows up and introduces himself to Nami and Usopp, which is great. I'm pretty sure we get the first Elbath name drop, and that'll be an important thing over the course of this arc and also future arcs. And we learn that this giant's name is Broggy. Oda really likes to lean into the giants having unique laughs. It's something he does with a lot of characters in One Piece that have like unique laughs. Characters that are important to the story in some way usually have a unique laugh. But he really leans into the giants having weird laughs. Um, we cut back from Bragi like picking up Nami and Usopp who were playing dead. Uh, and we head out to Luffy who is mucking about with the dinos. And the dinos get pretty upset with it. And end up swallowing Luffy, which is pretty fucking funny. However, another giant shows up and cuts that dinosaur's neck clean through with his axe, or his sword, sending Luffy flying through the air. And we discover that this giant is named Dory. These two giants are very important, at least for this arc and other arcs later. Bragi and Dory matter, and we should remember them. We cut back over to Usopp and Nami. Um, they are once again trying to get out of this situation because it's just, they think the giant's gonna kill them. They see a bunch of dead people, and again, they're idiots. They're just idiots. They're just not paying attention to the giant who's just trying to cook them some nice meat, and repay them for the little bit of booze they gave him. Um, and I just wrote down how much I fucking love Little Garden and Oda leaning into like the Toriyama level BS with like the tigers and the dinosaurs. This is something I've always loved about Akira Toriyama's like Dragon Ball Z and whatnot. Is just like how there are just randomly dinosaurs and saber-tooth tigers in Dragon Ball Z, even though Dragon Ball Z also has Capsule Corp, where they put a whole house in a pill, and you push the pill and throw it, and it turns into an entire fucking mobile house. But at the same time, dinosaurs. I just love that mixture of these things, and Oda goes like full Toriyama here, and I'm sure that's intentional for many reasons. After all, I'm almost positive Oda would be a fan of Toriyama. I don't know any professional mangaka who would ever probably get on blast saying they're not a fan of Akira Toriyama. Um, so yeah, they discovered that in order to set their log pose, it would take 1 year, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, they discovered that it would take 1 whole year on Little Garden to set the log pose, and that is why there are a bunch of human skeletons around. Even with Bragi and Dory trying to take care of them, any human who's tried to stay on this island that long ends up just dying to the island. Um, whether it be illness or one of the dinosaurs or what have you, or end up attacking Dory and Bragi, and they're like, "Fuck you, no." Um, and this is where we learn that Dory and Bragi are on this island and have been fighting each other for 100 years. And I want to point out that they like to say that that is a short amount of time for them. Like they really play up that giants live longer than humans, and that the humans act like that's ridiculous, but like to them it's not very much. It's still like a third of their life. Giants in One Piece live roughly 3 times the lifespan of humans. Humans, let's say at a high average, live to like 80, 100, around there. We'll meet some
Mm.
really old humans in One Piece who break the mold and live like well into like their 130s and whatnot. So like for a third of their life they've been on this pile of shit fighting each other. Um so while this is happening, Um, and the giants are talking to Luffy and Usopp, and they're learning about this duel. We're intermittently cutting in with Zoro and Sanji, who are getting into a fight over who can bring down the largest animal for them to eat, which is very funny. Um, and then the volcano. They say the volcano will be their timer to end their hunt. At which point the volcano goes off. Um, and that is apparently the signal for the duel between Dory and Bragi. And they go back at it again. Um, I then wrote down who needs details because we cut away from Little Garden to see the illustrious Mr. 3 in an area that is not animated at all, where it's just like him hanging out at like a resort with Miss Golden Week. Um, and they're just chilling, and every person around them is not animated or moving in any way. Now, we'll find out a little bit more about Mr. 3 in the future, but I've always been convinced that this scene, the reason no one is moving in it is because they're all fake.
Mm.
Like, I, I,
They're
I
about.
think they're all, like, Mr. Three's art. Like, I think they're all sculptures.
Mm.
I don't think it's because they just couldn't be asked to animate it. But sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, is that what they're implying? I don't know. So Miss Golden Week is there, and it turns out she's been looking at a letter for like a few days or some shit. And Mr. Three says, "What is that letter you've been looking at?" And she's like, "Oh, it's an order from the boss." And he's like, "Why didn't you tell me 3 days ago? Now we're 3 days late for the letter, you stupid. How dare you?" Um, which is funny. Mr. Five and Miss Valentine show up. And Mr. Three goes on. Oh my god, I hate when Mr. Three does this, but he goes on about being a smart criminal. That's his whole shtick. Mr. Three's whole personality shtick is just that he's really good at chess when he was in high school, and now he's a criminal. Um, and he reveals that they're going to be hunting some big money on Little Garden, which just coincidentally is also where the people that Mr. Five and Miss Valentine failed to kill. And then it's revealed that Dory and Bragi were members of the giant pirates. It was like Dory the blue, no, Dory the red and Bragi the blue giant. Um, they have
Mm.
bounties from
Real
a
good.
hundred years ago. Which of course if you don't know about this little small tidbit of Japanese culture and lore, there is often a story told about two Oni, one who is red and one is blue. So the fact that Dory and Bragi are giants who are the red and the blue, it's that sort of
I think they
association.
are literally referred to as the red and the blue ogres.
Yeah, they're the red and blue ogres. That's correct. So basically, they were captains of a giant pirate crew 100 years ago, and since they were never brought in and giants live for a very long time, their bounties are still legit. We also find out that their bounties are like as high as Luffy's or higher at this point in the story.
I think they're like 100 million berries each.
Yeah, at this point in the story, those bounties aren't nothing to sneeze at. And they've spent 100 years just constantly fighting each other, so they probably haven't lost much of their edge, other than getting 100 years older, which, from my understanding of time, doesn't do anything good for anyone's body, typically. And that's about the end of the episode. Basically, Mr. 3 is this weird man with a 3 on his head that lights up with a fire whenever he's passionate about things. Um, and they're gonna go in and they're gonna
Well,
take out Broggy and Dory, and if along the way they kill the Straw Hats, then aces. Um, and that's the episode. Was there anything else in there I missed that you were interested in?
no,
No.
I'm just looking at like the summaries of the episodes you've gone over, just so I remember what happened if I didn't already.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. If we have nothing else to talk about, let's go to episode 72. That was a fast episode. I'm into it. Episode 72. Time to duel, baby. Usopp and Luffy. Uh, they nerd out. I just wrote down that they nerd to their core. This is just their shit. This is the thing that young boys are really into. That in Oda's mind, like 20 years ago when he wrote this. Um, God, it's been 20 years since Little Garden. Holy shit. Sorry, just had a fucking blast to my brain. Um, so, uh, basically, Luffy and Usopp are both individually and separate of each other, totally into the fact that these best friends have been locked in a duel for 100 years. This is, kind of a sexist thing, but Oda loves it to make the women around the boys not understand or care about honor because to them it's just kind of stupid and useless. Which, if you're asking me, they're not wrong. I got a lot of heat in like Chaucer lessons in university for calling shit out for being really stupid. Uh, like I think there was a story in Chaucer where two knights become two brothers in arms who've loved each other as kin for years, fall in love with the same woman, and decide the only way they can resolve their issues is to fucking kill each other. So they help each other into the armor, and I'm like, this is stupid. Why don't you just stab the man in the back when he turns around for you to put his armor on? This is dumb. These people are idiots. um, I don't have any honor though. I'm an undead bastard. Deal with it. But so Oda has this shtick where women just really talk down pride or just don't understand it, and it makes the men around them like furious. And that kind of happens here where Nami just isn't getting it. Like Usopp's desire to be a brave warrior of the sea, to be like Dory, or in Usopp's case, Bragi, because he's interacted with Bragi at this point. And he has this dream of Elbaf and being a great warrior of the sea. And remember, when we were coming to the Grand Line, Usopp's declaration, as they all put their feet on the barrel, was to be a great warrior of the sea. But that's really vague. Unlike everyone else, like, Nami wants to make a map of the world. Zoro wants to be the greatest swordsman. Sanji wants to find the All Blue, even though that never comes up again almost ever for the whole rest of the story. Uh, Luffy wants to be king of the pirates, and then Usopp just wants this vague notion that doesn't really have anything quantifiable. But now, seeing Bragi and Dory fighting, these two pillars of masculinity who are totally, like, friends, um, it's one of these things where he sort of contextualizes his dream about being a brave warrior of the sea, and we get this shtick that happens where he's like, "That's it, that's what I want to be," as he watches um Bragi charge off to fight his best friend for the fucking 7,000th time, And Nami just listens and go, "What? A giant?" And it's like, "Fuck." And that stick just happens. I'm not a huge fan of that stick, honestly. I think Nami has enough social intelligence to understand this concept. I don't think she would be this dumb about it personally, but that's me. Um,
Honor is a thing.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know, honor is a thing where it's like it depends what you're fighting for and what you're doing, and the honor is like that's why you're doing it, and you have to uphold the honor for whatever reason. It's like it's very important thing to the person.
Well, see, that's the thing. The interesting part about the fight between Dory and Bragi, as we'll find out, even in this episode, I don't think I wrote it down, but like
Yeah, they literally don't know why they're fighting. It's
they don't
going on so
remember.
well.
They don't remember, but they know they are fighting, and they can't submit. We do find out. I don't know if it's been brought up yet. If not, it gets brought up soon. But there is an eternal pose on this island. There is an eternal pose to Elbath, the home of the giants. And Dory and Bragi are fighting each other for the right to take that and go home. Because they got involved in this fight, 100 years ago, the laws of their country state they can't come home until they have a resolution because they can't bring their fight home and get the other giants involved and devolve the island into a civil war. It's against the law. If you get into a disagreement and a matter of honor comes up and you're going to fight each other, you need to take it off the island and you need to fucking get your shit sorted out before you come home. We find out that Mr. 3 intends to interrupt the duel at some point and, get in and do his thing. We find out that this was the 73,466th duel, which is a lot, which is a lot of duels in 100 years. Uh,
Mm.
if you think about it, I don't want to do the math, but that's now that I've said it, I
Let me
kind of want to do the math. So what? 365 days a year times 100. So what's 100 times 100? That's like 36,000. That's like more than one. That's like two duels a day.
what was the total like
It's 73,466 is the total at the moment.
and that's divided by 365.
Or 356. How many days in a year? I don't know how many days are in the year. I can never remember that
365.
shit.
So that would be so
And then you times that answer by 100 because it's 100 years. It's not just 1 year, it's 100 years.
so 73,466 divided by 365 is 201 battles a year.
There you go.
Sorry, no, not a year. Sorry, that's divided by 365. Um, wait.
Yeah, we're fucking the math up. Listen, we're here to
Would
talk
that
One Piece, not math.
would that be 201 battles a year, or would that be 201 battles?
No, it's
Wait,
definitely. Let me pull up
no,
my
no,
calculator. Let me show you how we do this.
it would be
365
because
times 100 is
but
36,500 divided by.
if they've been fighting for 100 years,
Yeah,
wouldn't that be oh my god, if it's been that high for 100 years, would that
it's.
be that would be like 200, no, that would be per day, wouldn't it? Like 201 battles per day.
It's no, not per day. No, definitely not.
Well,
you're
no.
you're fucking that
Seven
math up a little bit. It's like two
battles.
battles a day, roughly, average. Still, it's a lot. So they do their duel. Oda leans into the unique laughs of the giants. I already kind of brought that up. Um, Bragi offers some of Luffy's alcohol to Dory that he got from his friends. Dory finds out about Nami and Usopp, which is great. Vivi is, of course, fucking stressed because she is. Like, I mean, her country's devolving into civil war. Like, I get it. Okay, you're stressed, but you're kind of, killing the vibe, Vivi. Not to be a downer, but you're kind of killing the mood. It's at this point that we find out about the eternal pose, and then Vivi does even more worrying. Then we get the Usopp stick about wanting to be a giant and like how he wants to be like Bragi, and both Bragi and Nami are like, "What, a giant?" And he's like, "No, I want to be someone who lives an honorable life and is willing to stick with his convictions and have the strength to not give up. And this is where he decides he's going to call Bragi master, which is very funny. Um, so at this point, Dory shows up and he's got some booze that uh, Bragi gave him. He drinks it and it explodes inside of him.
No.
So we discover that Mr. Five rigged the eel to explode, probably with his boogers, which, is great to drink. Um, However, Dory knows that this Bragi got this booze from Luffy's friends. And he knows Bragi would never do this. Bragi would never interrupt the sanctity of his duel. Because to them, it's really like a religious ceremony, this duel they're doing. So we get
Hmm.
a fucking amazing. Oh, this is such a good part of this episode. And I wrote down the whole quote, and it's so good. But, like, Dory is like about to enter into a berserk rage. Luffy can tell that's happening, and Vivi's like trying to talk them down, and like Luffy like cracks his knuckles and like pushes Vivi out of the way. And I wrote the quote, and he just says, "I feel bad to do this to the old guy, but I'll quiet him down." And I'm like, "Holy fucking shit, Luffy! You can't just kill a man like that with words. Holy shit!" Imagine a 17-year-old looking up at someone who's like 180 years old and just being like, all right, listen, I don't want to have to do this to you, but you gotta quiet down, so I guess I'll knock you into your place. Holy shit. What a fucking line. Oh my god. And he used it on someone who's his friend instead of like a villain. That's the fucking wildest part. Luffy's out here killing his allies. Um, so Luffy shows this giant that Luffy can take him. And Dory has a really hard time with that. Partially because a bomb just went off in his stomach, and he was just dueling Bragi. But one, he didn't know that Luffy had a devil fruit. Two, just about anything that giant can do to Luffy won't actually hurt him because he's made of rubber. And Luffy just rather soundly is like getting the upper hand on the fight. We get the very rare offensive Gum Gum Rocket, which I fucking love. Where Luffy just shoots himself like a fucking missile into Dory's stomach, which again, let me just point out, just had a fucking bomb go off in it. And then we get another thing I fucking love in One Piece when this happens, where Dory's falling to the ground. Like, he's out. But then that sheer fucking will to not lose. And he jumps back up with like superhuman speed. I love it. Nothing gets me wetter in a shonen anime than when someone who is clearly unconscious is about to lose, and the sheer force of their body wanting to not lose prevents them from losing. It's like fucking Rock Lee when he fights Gara, and at the end of the fight, he's just standing there in battle mode, and he's been unconscious for like a minute and a half. But his body won't go to the ground because it knows it has to keep fighting. Fuck, man, nothing just gets my heart beating, my eyes wet. Ah, it's so good. Um, so Luffy figures out at this point that it's someone's involved, probably uh Baroque works. Dory ends up pinning Luffy to the ground. Uh, that doesn't happen right now though, because I believe we cut away as this is happening. Um,
No.
Dory stomps Luffy into the ground with his foot. I remember. Then we cut away. We get some more Miss Golden
Hmm.
Week shtick with the tea, which is very funny. I actually really like this shtick, where she sits there staring at the tea, and Mr. Three realizes that's what she's staring at. And she's like, "Really, Miss Golden Week, you could pour it yourself." And he goes over and pours it for her. And then the other two idiots are like, "Refills, please." And then she's like, "Refill, please." Like, it's very funny. I like that shtick. I don't know why. So the volcano goes off, and Dory uh, I wrote the volcano rises Dory from his coma, because he's still fucked up. Um, so Bragi's gonna head into the fight thinking they're in the same condition, which they're not. And earlier in this episode, Dory kind of went off about the religious part of this fight, the whole religious belief that he has about this fight. And it's basically that he believes that the god of Elbath will choose a winner in this fight one day. And it's kind of a cop out. Like, I honestly don't love this part of Dory's personality, but he basically like begins to go to the fight knowing he's going to die because he's wounded more than Bragi is because of the bomb and the interference from someone else. Um and it's this fucked up thing where he's just like, well, I guess God decided I was gonna die. Because, I mean, Bragi could have drank this ale instead of me. They didn't know it was coming to me. It was meant for him, clearly. So God chose me to lose. It came to me. That is my fate. I will go face my friend in battle and I'll die. And it's just like, fuck. So Torky drops an entire fucking the mountain, which is actually, I believe, a Sea King carcass. There were two massive like Sea King carcasses, ancient skeletons on this island. And he picks one of them up and drops it on Luffy to keep him from interfering, which is fucking hilarious. And Luffy goes fucking ape shit. He does do a really good line when trying to stop Dory from going to the fight, because he does rightly. I want to point out that a duel that has been interfered with is no longer a duel. Like, he's not honor bound to continue this fight where it has been interfered with by an outside source. But Dory doesn't see it that way. Dory sees it as God finally picking a side, or at least that's how he's rationalizing it. Um, and I basically wrote down that there were just a lot of fucking PNGs at this point of like reactions. I think Dory dropping the Sea King on him might have actually been in the next episode based on how my notes are written. And I got carried away. But I do know that at the end of episode 72, the animation goes to shit, and it's just a lot of still images and people like reacting without even being animated. Did you have any opinions about this episode? Now that we've reached the end of it?
To be honest, it's been so long since I watched that episode. I only caught up with the last three episodes today, so they're the ones that are fresh in my head. I don't really remember much about the last two
I see.
for them.
I mean, I watched all of these like a month ago. For people watching outside baseball, we're like way ahead on recordings, but we took like a month break basically. Because Norco wasn't
Everyone
feeling
was
up to it,
too
and
busy.
Norco still isn't feeling up to it. But at least Rudy was here today.
What are the rare opportunities I'm free on the Friday nowadays?
Yeah. So yeah, let's dive into episode 73. I will never get over the Luffy cracking his knuckles and saying, "I feel bad to do this to the old guy, but I'll quiet him down." Like it's fucking nothing. Oh, oh God, Luffy. All right, episode 73. Episode 73 starts, I believe, with Dory dropping the manning on Luffy. This is where he accepts the interference as God siding against him. Vivi is just being fucking useless, as always. Listen, Vivi is a huge fan favorite character. I get it. She's not my favorite honorary Straw Hat. She's just
No,
not.
no, no. You know who is the favorite character? No, no, no. Vivi is not the favorite. The favorite is Karu. Karu is
No.
best in One Piece.
Rule
Karu
thir-
is
rule
best
rule
character in
34
One
sites
Piece.
definitely are working against you on that. Um
I'm kidding, but Karu is like, come on, Karu is great.
Vivi is great. I don't hate Vivi. I just feel a lot of the time in some of these episodes she could do something and then Oda just never has her doing anything. And she just kind of feels like dead weight. Which isn't, like bad for an NPC cuz she's an NPC, right? She's not like one of the main cast. I mean, she's important, she'll stay important, but she's not a proper Straw Hat. But like there are other honorary Straw Hats we'll meet who just when they are part of the Straw Hat crew, even if it's just honorary, they just do more. And maybe that's just because it's Vivi and she can't do a lot of things because she is just kind of a pampered princess who's got like a weird gimmick with the twirly things. But like she could be digging Luffy out of the hole. Like she could be doing something, but she's just standing there. It annoys me. More of Usopp's shtick continues. We cut back over to that side of the fight, uh, where Nami is trying to head back to the ship, but Usopp wants to stay and watch the fight. Um, Bragi doesn't. God, my notes are so bad. Oh, but Bragi doesn't pick up that Dory is hurt. Dory says a line that's code. Like Bragi asks him how was the ale, and Dory says it tasted divine, which
He's like,
we
it tasted
godly,
godly. Like,
godly. That is the exact translation in the subtitles, which is fucking stupid. But like that is a clue for us that like he's telling Bragi that like, oh man, it fucked me up. I'm gonna die. This is
but
it.
bro didn't even realize it until
Exactly, that's the thing.
it's
Bragi
gone.
wouldn't, because to him he's just like, ah, good. I'm glad. So I then wrote down that like Vivi just continues to be useless. Karoo finds Broke works, which is not good for Karoo. Zora's an idiot. That happens. We find out that at this point, Mister Three is taking the opportunity to separate and capture all the Straw Hats who are wandering around the islands with his devil fruit. Uh, Usopp causes a panic by running over to where Luffy is, believing that like something's happened to Nami, like she's dead because he lost sight of her. Luffy is pissed. Uh, Luffy and Usopp, like this is one of the not rare times, but it is one of the times where like they are unified in anger about something, like the duel being interfered with, and because again they're both so heavily invested in the Giants' duel and the honor by it, they both get like absolutely enraged. Um, However, during the fight, we find that Dory, once again, through sheer force of will of not wanting to lose, even though he thinks God has sided against him, Dory believes that if he tries hard enough, he can earn God's favor back, basically. And he is holding his own in the fight. So much so that Mr. 3 interferes again by pouring wax under his foot and tripping him up. And that's what gets him hit. Dory goes down, and then Bragi begins to cry. Um, we then see I don't know why I wrote down something about Golden Week. I don't remember her doing something right here at this point.
No, Miss Golden Week is like last episode she actually gets to doing
Yeah,
something.
yeah, I don't know why I wrote down she's a painter. I think she gets introduced right now by Mr. 3. Because Mr. 3 shows up and uses his devil fruit. Because he is the wax fruit. He's a wax man. His devil fruit is actually like super good and kind of busted. Um, and he captures Bragi in his moment of tiredness and emotional exhaustion over beating Dory. Um, and he introduces Golden Week as a painter, basically. Karoo gets the shit kicked out of him, um, because that's what happens to Karoo. Usopp takes a ton of woman like a champ, is what I wrote in my notes, which I believe means Miss Valentine sat on him. Which I believe means he got sat on literally by someone weighing a ton.
Yeah.
Um, but again, this is one of those things where Usopp is again just has a superhuman ability to take damage and not die. Um, that will never go away. We will see Usopp take more bodily damage than most people. We'll even get some X-rays of it at some times, which is always terrifying when it happens. Um, but yeah, Usopp's superpower is that he just doesn't die ever. And then we find out more about the wax fruit, and I just wrote down that it's pretty OP. And that's the end of the episode. Um, oh, I guess Mr. Three captures Bragi at the start of the next episode, right at the start.
Mm.
Um,
Episode 74 already. Wow, flying through this.
yeah, I mean these. Well, see, that's the kind of the interesting thing with One Piece. When the episodes are a bit slower, and there's just a lot of dialogue and exposition, we have to go on for a bit longer to talk about things. But when it's these episodes where it's just a lot of fucking action, you just blow through it because it's a lot of like, and this happened, and that happened, and this happened, and that happened, and there's not a lot of meat to chew on that isn't spoilers. So I'm clearly not going
Mm.
into that. We'll find, I think, in episodes where it's a lot of fighting and action, the commentary just, the recap goes a lot quicker because it's an action scene. And I'm not choreographing it out individually. So like, if something cool happens, we'll talk about it. But you know. So yeah, episode 74. We're over halfway there now, and we're only 34 minutes in. We might get another sub 1 hour, and ready, let's go. My opening notes are explosions, excitement, anger. Mr. Five is just doing a workover on Luffy and Usopp. Mr. Three captures Bragi. Um, Luffy isn't having any of Mr. Five shit, which I love, because Mr. Five is just like kicking him in the head with explosions, and Luffy's just looking at him like, "Oh, you guys captured Zoro? He's gonna fucking kill you!" like, Luffy's just like balls to the wall. I mean, the second this mountain isn't on me, you little piece of shit, I'm gonna break you in six. Which is great. I love that for him. I'm gonna stop referring to Mr. Three as three Mr. Three all the time. Sometimes I just call him San in my note, which is just three in Japanese. Um,
Mm.
and I think that a lot of people in the show refer to him as like San later on. Like I don't think they call him Mr. Three always. Um,
Oh yeah, that's all I'm hearing is Mr. Three, right?
yeah. Right now, we I don't know when we actually get his name. I believe it's later in this arc. We get like his actual name. But like he's always Mr. Three or San in my mind. So he
I
glouts and reveals his interference. So there's this beautiful scene where
I really don't like Mr. Three.
he'll grow on you in a way. Give it,
Oh yeah.
give it a few hundred episodes. We'll get there. Um, so
Yeah, I'll do that.
there's this scene where he's talking to Bragi about how good it must feel that he's crying. Because the way Mr. Three is interpreting this, because again he's a sociopath, um, the only reason Bragi would be crying that he's won is that he's so relieved to finally be done the fight. He's finally thrown down this enemy who he's hated for all his 100 years. He's so happy he has to cry. But that's not it. Bragi loved Dory. They are the best of friends. You can't have a 100-year duel with someone you hate. That hate will get burned out. You have this 100-year duel with someone you truly and absolutely respect with every bit of you, and it's over. And that's why he's crying. And that's about the point where Mr. Three reveals uh, that he interfered. And oh boy, is that gonna make Bragi upset. And Bragi realizes Mr. Dory's line about being godly. He has that moment of recollection, of knowledge, at some point in this episode. I don't know if it's right now or if it comes up later. Um, but he does discover that the booze that was meant for him that he gave to Dory ended up exploding and weakening him. Um,
Mm.
I wrote down that Mr. Three's fruit is like a non-Logia Logia. So from my understanding, Mr. Three's devil fruit is a Paramecia class devil fruit. But it really kind of works like a Logia. And Oda will do this a few times. He eventually created like a whole special Paramecia class, because he accidentally called something a Logia at one point, I think, and it wasn't supposed to be, but it got printed that way. So he had to backpedal and make a correction about that at one point. That wasn't about Mr. Three, it was another character, but Mr. Three's Devil Fruit is very Logia-esque because it's very liquid. And then we basically find out that Mr. Three is really into slow kill torture porn, basically. He has Vivi, Nami, and Zoro set up on this fucking ridiculous candle set, uh, and with a huge pumpkin and candles, and Bragi is pinned down to the ground beside it. And basically, we find out that the candle is going to melt the wax, and it's going to rain wax into the air around them until it solidifies their body and turns them into like dead statues. Um, and it'll take a very long time. It'll be super inefficient, and it's really fucking stupid. For someone who claims to be very smart. Uh, Zoro ain't giving a fuck, which I love. He just seems totally nonplussed with the whole thing. He's like, well, you haven't shown me Luffy's decapitated head. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be fine. It's just like, you know what? Zoro Zoro knows he's a character in a shonen manga. Good for him. 5 points to Zoro. Zoro realizes he's part of the main cast of the show. Uh, which I found very funny. We find out a little bit more about Bragi's commitment to Dory. Uh, Mr. Five is pretty super effective against the big boys because their bodies are so large. The explosions like have more of them to hit, which is super annoying. Karoo digs out Luffy, which is good. Uh, so after Bragi tried to break free of Mr. Three's bindings, Mr. Three decides to impale his hands. That's a scene that always makes me wince. Where he impales like his legs and his hands with huge wax spikes. Ugh. However, this is a very interesting thing because we see that Mr. Three's wax fruit, the wax is like hard like steel. Um, However, we do see that it can impale itself as he slams the spikes through the wax gauntlets that he put on the giant, which is
Mm.
interesting to take note of. And I just wrote down that this is an implausibly slow way to kill a fool. And then we get one of my favorite scenes in One Piece, like maybe top 15 moments of One Piece, where Zoro looks at Bragi and is like, "Hey, you got another escape attempt in you?" And Bragi's like, "I mean, fuck yeah, if you're doing it, sure." And Zoro's like, "Sweet, I'm gonna cut my own feet off and hop down there and kill them on my stumps." And Mr. Three is like, "What?" And everyone else is like, "What?" And Zoro's like, "Anyone else coming with me?" And Vivi's like, "All right, take my feet. Let's go. I got a fucking country to save. I can't worry about not having feet. We'll fix it later." And Nami's like, "Vivi, what are you talking about?" And Zoro's like, "All right, when I cut my feet off, I'm gonna cut yours next, and then we're gonna dive down there. We're gonna kill all four of them." And he goes to do it. He goes to fucking do it. And it's just one of the best moments in One Piece. Because it's at this moment where Usopp, Luffy, and Karu burst into the scene and Zoro stops himself. And then we see the blood running down the candle in front of him because he did cut halfway into his ankles before stopping. He did get, like, into himself halfway through the leg before stopping, noticing that Luffy showed up. Boy was about to cut his own feet off, hop down there, and kill them. And they were acting like he was gonna do it. Like, it was very good. Um, and he comments on Mr. Three's weird head, which I find very funny. And that was the end of the episode. Luffy shows up to save the day. Um,
Yeah.
Interesting fact, which we have to bring up. There is a new ending today. With
Oh
this
yeah.
episode. So the last ending only lasted, I think, like 10 episodes. This new ending is called, oh fuck, I wrote down, it's like Soshi no Sube by Suite Shoujo. And this ending is only here for 8 episodes, so don't get used to it. it's
Oh boy.
it's
Why are
our
they so short
I
now?
don't know.
I think
The
it's gonna be like, yeah, like 50 endings by the end of One
the
Piece.
the openings last a real long time. Some openings go on for like almost 100 episodes straight. Some openings, I think the longest One Piece opening is like 80 episodes or something, where it's just the same opening. But the endings, I don't know, man, they change a bit. So this ending, I don't hate it. It's all right. It's got a lot of cool graphics. It's got a good beat. I didn't write down many crazy notes about it. I couldn't find anything interesting about the band or anything cool about any of that. It was just like, here's how the story, here's how the song goes, and here's the animation that plays, and I'm like, all right, thank you. It's pretty good. Any other comments about this episode? It's one of the more recent ones you've seen.
No.
All right.
Giant, giant swirly wax thingy. It looks like it has a like a, a jack-o'-lantern pattern on its
It
head.
does. It's very Halloweeny, which is very funny.
It's funny also because we're like 3 days away from Halloween at the time of this
Yes.
recording.
It is currently the 28th of Spooktober right now. Uh it's a good aesthetic. Maybe this episode originally aired around Halloween. If we were really interested in doing like Halloween themed One Piece stuff, we're in the wrong arc for it. There is a much more Halloweeny thing later, and maybe we'll get to it by next Halloween, but I kinda doubt it at our current pace. All right, episode 75, last episode for the day. Luffy shows up to save everyone. Save in quotation marks. We get a lot of stupid dialogue, and I just wrote down that there's a lot of wasted airtime for a time-sensitive moment. Uh, and I just love Zoro in this arc so much because Zoro just doesn't give a fuck. He strikes a really cool pose because he's like, well, I guess we're gonna die because Luffy's here, but he's an idiot. So I might as well strike a good pose. If I'm gonna die and be stuck as a statue, I want to be a cool pose. And he just does this whole shtick with like Nami and Vivi, like, are you gonna pose? You're gonna regret it, and they don't. And then later they're like, oh my god, we're gonna die, and Luffy's not gonna save us. And he's like, yeah, don't you feel fucking stupid for not taking a pose? Now look at you. You're gonna be
Yeah.
stuck like that, you fucking idiot. And he's got this stupid pose going on. It's great. Um, so Usopp shoots an explosion into Mr. Five, who like swallows it, which is funny to me. Mr. Five volunteers to lose, is what I wrote down in my notes, which I think means he jumps into the fight and is like, nah, man, Luffy will fucking kill you. Oh, he volunteers to jump up and take down them, and Mr. Three throws out some truth at him, which is basically just like, I mean, you did say you already took care of him like 10 minutes ago. Clearly your shit doesn't do shit to him, you useless shitbag. Get out of here. And I'm like, yeah, true, true, that's true.
Like, I'll handle him myself. You two go and get the other two.
Yeah, it's great. Um, Usopp is being kind of useless. Luffy is being a genius. I love him. I love when Luffy tries smart things. He decides to try and break the wax statue. Of course, this makes things worse. Um, I think we do. I think this is around the moment where we get like,
Like,
so
sorry to interrupt.
Mister
Like,
Three throws wax at Luffy and it hits part of him, and then he discovers that the wax is very hard and he can use it like a mallet to break the other wax.
yeah,
Uh,
I was actually just gonna say that. Like, he was very smart in this scenario because he literally used his own wax to break his
and
his wax wall.
Oda did amazing foreshadowing with this, with the wax spikes impaling the wax hands on Bragi. This is great. We find out that the wax is hard to steal, but it breaks to itself. So Luffy starts using the wax as a mallet. And this will become a thing that, like, get ready for this, because this will come back again when Mr. 3 comes back again into the story at some point. Um, but Luffy loves it. Like, whenever Mr. 3 fucks up and doesn't, like, fully capture Luffy, he's just giving Luffy a weapon. And Luffy's just like, yay, a new hammer. It's very funny. Um, and he ends up making things worse. Because now shit is going even faster because he took out some of the statue and now it's rotating quicker and spreading the wax
And
faster.
it's like, oh boy, I did a good thing. What my friends told me to do, but then it literally is like, you
Oh,
fool! The pillar has fallen, and it's just accelerated it even faster
oh no, my
because it's
friends are
so.
idiots and didn't know what to do, so they just told me to do random shit and I did it. It made things worse. Oh no. Um, So I then write down that Mr. Three keeps equipping Luffy with weapons, which I find very funny. I did write down flashes of Mpreg. I don't know why. It was from that's when Mr. Five swallows the explosion and he swells up like a balloon. I'm like, oh, some Mpreg. There you
Yeah,
go.
I mean, like the fact he can do that is just like,
Stupid.
how are you still alive?
Yeah.
Even if you have the power of exploding boogers, how the hell are you still alive?
We'll find there's Mr. Five and Miss Valentine's fruits both kind of get reused later, but like a different variant of those fruits. And that character is also stupid. We then get one of my favorite lines in One Piece, which is just Luffy saying "yada yada." No, I don't wanna. So then we discovered that Miss Golden Week is bullshit. Uh, so Luffy begins tripping balls, and we discover that uh Miss Golden Week is able to draw such expressive pieces of color um that it affects the emotions of the people around it.
Mm,
Um, which is really bad for Luffy because he's basically a bull in a china shop. And if you do anything to fuck with his mind, it just works because Luffy's an idiot. Um,
mm.
Mr. Five and them are going after Usopp and Karoo, who are trying to move out of the way. And I just wrote down more of the duo being kind of useless. We discovered that she's a realistic painter. And I just wrote down that that's BS. She's basically magic. She's a witch. So fun fact: if you thought Miss Goldenweek had a devil fruit, she doesn't. Her
Mm.
ability is not a devil fruit. She can just do this. Her colors are
Really?
so expressive, it has magic powers.
And
I
it's like
always
the
thought this was a devil fruit. Like young Junior watching One Piece for the first, second, and third time, always thought she just had a weird color-based devil fruit that let her do things with color. But no, she doesn't have a devil fruit. This is all just sheer art.
and it's like the color black just makes Luffy do the opposite of what his friends want him to do.
Yeah, it's black betrayal black basically is what the color is called. So she points a black thing for Luffy, and he's standing in it. And while he's standing in it, he wants to do the opposite of whatever his friends say. They realize this because she just fucking tells them it. So they reverse psychology Luffy into doing what they actually want. He then goes through four different colors. We get betrayal black, laughter yellow, bull red, and calm green. So basically, yellow, he gets hit with the Joker sauce. He's just laughing to the point where he can't stop. Um, red, she paints a red target and then like a literal bull. Oh my god, could you not like suck my dick off right now? What are you doing? Your model is getting suspiciously close to my lab, Rudy. Get up. What are you doing? You're also muted. Oh my god. Did Rudy die? Rudy, don't say you died. I really don't want to be known as the Lich who's like podcast co-host died while VTubing together. And her model never moved again. Oh, there we go. Are you back?
Sorry, I had something. I needed to be away for like a few seconds.
Okay, your model did some
Um,
inappropriate things while
Yellow
you were
color.
gone.
On the yellow color is laughing so hard, I'm surprised he didn't die of laughter.
Yes, and then red, it literally becomes like a bull in a china shop. If he
Yeah,
sees
and
the
then
red mark, he has to punch it. And then the green mark, he just sits
really,
down and drinks some calm tea.
it was really interesting that she could mix the colors like that.
Yep,
So yeah, the
she's super
green is a
cool.
really lovely, lovely green tea.
Um, Usopp is still being kind of dumb. He decides he needs to loop around to go see how Luffy's doing, assuming Luffy's already won. But of course, because Luffy's on his own against someone with like psychological effects, he's just losing. Um, and then I wrote down that fucking Oda having the balls to pretend guns need reloading in this hellscape. So this is a thing with Oda where guns never need to be reloaded in One Piece until it's narratively like good for them to need to be reloaded. Mr. Five whips out a pretty cool looking pistol and starts breathing into it because his breath is also explosive, like the molecules of
It's
his
such
breath.
a it's such a long name for that pistol as well. It's like, why
Yeah.
is it such a long name? And then enters Flintlock. I'm like, could have just said Flintlock pistol.
It's a pretty cool idea. If I had Mr. Five's Devil Fruit, I'd definitely totally want a gun. I could like breathe into it to reload and spin the six cylinder around and then shoot invisible bullets at people and cause
Wait,
explosions. I love it.
if you can breathe into it to reload, wouldn't that technically mean you have infinite ammo?
Yeah, he has
Damn.
infinite ammo. And it's invisible. And it explodes. That's what I'm saying. It's not a bad idea. Oh man, imagine Mr. Five would be the best like honeypot spy ever. He just seduces the enemy agent, kisses them once, and then blows them up from the inside out. Just like breathes into their mouth and then pops their head off like a lollipop. Just
Jesus.
yeah, fucked up, right? Alright, back to the shit. So
There's not
Usopp
much to cover.
Usopp bursts into the scene and sees Nami, Vivi, and Zoro and Bragi are completely coated in wax. And Luffy is sitting there, unable to move because of the fucking mind control green paint, drinking tea and crying with the sheer force that he's trying to break this literal magic that's holding him. And the episode ends with Usopp being fucking pissed at Luffy for letting everyone die. And I'm like, fair dinkum. Um,
God.
basically. And that's the end of the episode.
And that's also the end of all of the 5 episodes for this episode. That was quick.
Yeah, 54 minutes. If we do a quick wrap up, we'll actually be under 1 hour. So, do you have any other comments about episode 75, Rudy? Anything you want to
I
talk about?
mean, I did like the part when Usopp was running around being chased by the two, and he literally bumped into Luffy so hard. The yellow paint smeared.
Yeah, it had moments. I didn't love the Usopp running away there because I want to get us to the point where Usopp's like actually able to be involved in shit, but it takes a while.
Yeah,
I do love balls to the wall post time skip to post time skip Usopp though.
that's probably the only comment I really had in my head for that episode,
All right,
as far as you haven't talked about.
fair enough. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast when it comes up around Christmas time. All right, that has been Rudy and Junior. That's my name. Oh fuck me, sweet Jesus. All right, we're out of here. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye.